Good evening, everyone. It is once again Ted the Speed Learner, and tonight what I'm going to do is I'm going to review the Classic Linker N64 device. Now let me tell you why I had to have the Classic Linker N64 device. Okay? Now I actually own a Nintendo 64. I also own a Gamecube. Now for those of you who do not know, the Gamecube, they had these limited edition discs, and it was The Legend of Zelda, and you had the first Legend of Zelda game on it, you had the second one, you had the Ocarina of Time, and you also had the Majora's Mask on it. I'm truly surprised that they did not put on this disc A Link to the Past. That would have been really fun, but they didn't do that, so that forces me to keep my Link to the Past game cartridge as well as my Super Nintendo game system. Now, the thing is, I grew up in the olden days of video games. We're talking about Pac-Man and Donkey Kong and Burger Time and Dig Dug, and I could go on and on and on. And you had a basic controller system. You actually had a joystick and two buttons, the A and B. That's what you had. Okay, you didn't have all these extra fancy buttons and all this other stuff, which makes things 10 times more complicated. Okay, so I got used to playing like that. And this was great because on the original Nintendo Entertainment System, they actually had the NES Advantage. And I bought one and I used it for so long. But then the Super Nintendo came out, and the games that I liked on the regular Nintendo went on to the Super Nintendo, except the Mega Man games. Now, Mega Man had the Mega Man X and X2 and X3, but the original Mega Man games did not go on to the Super Nintendo. So I ended up having to keep my regular Nintendo to play them. Okay? But the good news was that when they came out with the GameCube, all of those previous Mega Man games were put on a disc, and I was able to play them on the GameCube. Okay? But I needed a joystick, a real joystick with real buttons. You say, well, wait a minute. How did you get the joystick? Okay. I went out and I bought this bad boy. See that? Yep. As you can see, it has a joystick, has the buttons just like I like them. I can do turbo on this stuff, whole 9 yards. Pretty much just like the NES Advantage and the Super NES Advantage. That's right, the Super Nintendo also had an Advantage joystick. And I wish they had kept going with this, because this is the kind of stuff I was used to. You know, Nintendo needs to accommodate people that are a little bit older, because their purchasing audience is not always parents to kids. Some of us grew up on Nintendo. We grew up on Atari, that kind of thing. And we can play almost as well as those kids can. So I needed something like this to play my games. Here's the problem. When you play Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time on the GameCube using this controller, this won't move Link. It won't. I tried. It won't. So I had to do something else. Now, have you ever tried to play Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time with this ugly thing? I tried. It don't work. Why? Because I can't hold on to this. Okay, I need to physically hold on to the joystick to make it work. I don't move that thing with my finger. That's ridiculous. It's stupid. So, what do you do? Okay. Well, we have the solution. Well, kind of the solution. This works well enough. Check out this bad boy. This will work with the Nintendo 64, but I needed this thing to work with the GameCube. That was the problem. The piece that hooks up to the Nintendo 64 won't hook up to the GameCube. So I had to get this. It's called the Classic Linker Nintendo 64. And I had to get it. It's this little white box. Okay? And what I did was I hooked up this bad boy to this. And when I did, all I had to do after that was, instead of having my joystick up here, I put my joystick down here, and when I did, I was able to move Link in Ocarina of Time. Okay? And I have my Z controller right here. This button this would be your C. Okay, and I can show you that right here. These yellow buttons would be the equivalent. The yellow buttons up here are the equivalent of this right here. Okay? And of course I have my A and my B and my left and my right. And this has turbo as well. So now I can use this Nintendo 64 controller successfully with my GameCube. Now I can't wait to try that. I mean, I did try it out a little bit, and it does actually work. I found that out. But I have never gone extensively with it. So, whenever I do get a chance to finally just sit down and play the dang thing, I will be using that controller. And I wanted to tell something to the people who created this Soul Calibur 2, and that's what this thing here is. It's the Soul Calibur 2 joystick. I want to tell you guys something. Shame on you for not having this work with the Ocarina of Time. That's a shame. Because otherwise, this is a great controller. It really is. But it won't control Link with the Ocarina of Time. I think it's ridiculous. Anyway, so that is my review of the Classic Linker N64. It does actually work. I'm very pleased with it. And if you are trying to play The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time and you're used to the old type joystick, I would go ahead and get yourself an Arcade Shark. Get one of these and then hook it up with that Classic Linker N64. And if you do, you will have a great time. Otherwise, you'll be deeply disappointed. Oh well. Anyway, I want to thank you very much for watching this presentation. I hope that review helps you out quite a bit. I will tell you more in a future video, so I'd like for you to stay tuned.